3 meters below the water, just off that tiny island, lie the remains of the sailing ship Boyd. It's lain there for nearly 200 years, and all that's left is some charred, rotten timber and some copper sheeting. This was no ordinary shipwreck. 60 people died, but there was no storm, no jagged rocks, and no one drowned. Those who perished on the Boyd were massacred and eaten. In December 1809, the Boyd anchored in Whangaroa Harbour, just about here, off Peach Island. Unfortunately, on the journey from Sydney, relations between the captain and George had soured. George had refused to work his passage alongside the other Maori, so the captain had him flogged.
They should never have done that. That wasn't one of the things, because as a chief, it would have been expected that he as a chief would have been able to tell them what to do.
When the Boyd anchored in Whangaroa Harbour in 1809 to trade for wooden spars, it was surrounded by kauri. So perhaps Captain Thompson should have been suspicious when George and his brother Te Puhi told him that better kauri was to be had further inland, up the Kaiō River. Some days later, the captain and 3 boatloads of sailors were escorted from the harbour up the Kaiō River by a group of warriors. They didn't know it, but they were being led to the village of George's tribe, Ngāti Uru, like lambs to the slaughter. As the captain and his sailors were brought ashore, the warriors turned on them. They berated Captain Thompson for the way he had treated George, the son of their chief. Captain Thompson tried to negotiate with Te Puhi, George's brother, but to no avail. Te Puhi shouted, "Patui kia mate! Kill them!" The warriors would have dragged the sailors' bodies here to be prepared for the cannibal feast. The captain and his shore party were eaten. As word spread, those from neighbouring villages came to partake. When night fell, the warriors, disguised in the clothes of the dead sailors and armed with their muskets, paddled back to the Boyd. Most of the passengers and crew were massacred in their beds, then taken on deck. But 5 of the crew sought refuge up the masts. Below them, they saw their shipmates being carved up for a second feast. It's believed that another chief, Te Pahi, arrived on the scene about this time from the Bay of Islands. Some accounts say that those up the mast appealed to him for help and that he was able to take them to shore. But once there, they were clubbed to death by Te Puhi's warriors. The only man left alive was the second mate. He was kept as a slave. The rest were destined for the hangi pits. Having done with the passengers and crew, Te Puhi's men set about plundering the Boyd. The most prized spoils of all were the muskets in the ship's weapon store, but the Maori were unfamiliar with the dangers of gunpowder. The deck blasted skyward. Wreckage and body parts rained down. The ship was shaken from its mooring, and the flames were fueled by the cargo of whale oil and coal. The Boyd drifted all the way from Peach Island and came to rest over there by Motowai Island. It's now called Red Island, supposedly after all the blood that flowed from the ship. There, the Boyd burned to the waterline and sank. The second mate had been given to a neighbouring chief who kept the sailor alive to make fishhooks from the ship's metal fittings. But when the sailor proved useless at the task, he was killed and eaten.